what's different about the new trip planners is the entire screen is going to be filled with the map, whatever size you, whatever. So this could be a mobile device, could be a small iPad or tablet type device, or a full screen, which is automatically adjust the size, sort of a la Google. We use MapQuest maps for the time being, simply because the Google Maps for the volume we do is too expensive. It's about $1 million a year for us to use. We've recently entered into an agreement, or we're in the process of entering into an agreement with the County of Los Angeles, and we're going to share geographic data, and that will allow us to generate our own maps. And one of the things that I think will be of interest to you is we're going to offer very high contrast maps for people who have difficulty with seeing different colors and detecting various shades of gray. So it'll be very high contrast. Yes, correct. So that should make it a lot easier as well. That's not something we can do with the commercial maps that we use outside. The other thing that's different is the actual information will wind up being just a panel that sits on the upper left-hand side of the corner, as you see. So we'll be putting in the station. And this really isn't processing, by the way. It just needs something to be able to give us some information. And it's not working, which is why they gave me the other URL. Okay. Oh, this is terrible. Anyway, well, the idea of this panel, though, that I want to talk about, is anybody using currently what we call the simple planner, the trip planner that's in our mobile device? It's also on our website.
Is that
It's just a text-based version.
Yeah.
It's Section 508 compliant. It works very well with screen readers. We wrote it specifically to work with screen readers. That's on our site. That will continue to exist, but we're going to enhance it with some new features. And basically, the look and feel will change a little bit, but it will actually mimic the panel that's in the upper left-hand corner. Okay, so that we're actually going to be sharing the same stuff. We're not doing separate things. We're going to be using the same trip planning software, same interface, everything that for everybody, regardless of what works for them, what's most comfortable for them. We're trying to make it very, very adaptable. One of the other things that I wanted to call your attention to, and this is kind of difficult to do on this since it's not working really well here, but we offer one of the things that we're going to see. You see these buttons that are marked with letters, BT, BT. Those that we don't have the artwork yet, there's graphics that go in there for these buttons, but this button it really stands for bus, train, and then both bus and train. And that's your travel mode, so that's for people that want to select bus only, rail. We kind of do that now. But what's really different is we're adding an access mode, okay? And what's interesting, and may have been interest to you, is that we've mainstreamed the wheelchair button. So we will have a graphic here for cars, for automobiles, for bicycling, for walking, and for wheelchair. So you choose your mode, and depending on the mode, we use that. Once you make that selection, that determines how far we allow. Obviously, a bicycle can go a lot further than someone in a wheelchair. Walking, you can't go nearly as far as driving in a car, so we adjust the difference automatically. And there's certain things we know. If you're driving, we know you can only drive on one end. You can't, after you park your car, you don't have your car on the other end to use it, so we assume perhaps that you walk or bicycle, use a wheelchair on the other end. It's the same thing with wheelchair. One of the things that's interesting about the wheelchair mode that we don't do now, it would be a little bit different, is we've identified all of the stops in the system. We've identified what corners they're on. Okay.
I thought you guys already did that already.
Well, we kind of do, but we don't. We know what position they're on. We know if it's a near side, a far side, or if it's a mid block. We know what street it's on. But now what we've kind of done is group them by corner. The reason we've done that is it allows us, for someone in a wheelchair or for small children, where people don't want them crossing busy streets, for example. We try very hard to make trips where you stay on the same corner. You don't have to cross the street, so they can easily just maneuver around the corner. There's so many stops, there's so many ways that you can travel. It's possible that it might potentially force an extra transfer, but now transfers starting the 15th are free for the first 2 hours. If you're using the TAP, I don't know if you're familiar with that. That's something else that's coming up. We had to make a lot of changes in the trip plan to support that. But anyway, so transfers will be free for 2 hours. So if it's a faster trip and it takes another additional leg of service, we can add that to the trip. So we're going to have a lot of options. I don't think this will Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't show the output. When I get the program is when I get upstairs. At any rate, the output's a little bit different. The display looks a little bit more like you see in a columnar format. You'll see this on Bing and Google and Meta. They all do similar kinds of things. We're adopting that same. But again, it's a very easy design to adapt to a smartphone, a tablet, or a great big screen. It's very easy to adapt. The other thing that we've added that may be of interest, I think what we're going to do is add a way to have, we're adding a new feature, and I think we may add a way to be able to turn it on or off. And I'm here also soliciting for some input for some of the things I say. So if you hear me say something, and I'd be interested if you think it will cause a problem. We did a survey, actually a focus group, about a year or two ago. Very elaborate on the trip planner. One of the things we discovered was nearly half the number of people that tried to use the trip planner couldn't do the simplest thing, couldn't get a location. They couldn't put in their address and actually have it find it. One of the most difficult things to do. So, unfortunately I can't show it here, but I think you've done what's called an autocomplete function before. If you type Google, you'll start typing and it starts matching in a list underneath as you type.
Yeah.
You're familiar with that feature?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what we've added, and we've basically done that for all the addresses, intersections, landmarks, bus stop IDs, everything you can think of in the 5-county area is now in our database.
Which 5 counties?
It's Los Angeles and the adjacent counties, so that would be San Bernardino, Riverside, Orange, and Ventura. So everything that's adjacent to LA County. And if you're not familiar already, we have not just Metro service in this, but we have nearly 70 different companies. Every transit company that's in the 5-county region, LA and the 5 counties, is in the database. So it'll produce the most optimal trip for you using a variety of services. That's one of the reasons why we're pushing TAP. And we have a lot more companies that are coming on board and joining the TAP program, so that with just the TAP card, you can go from company to company, and you don't have to worry about it. Just debit your card. Makes it much easier to be able to travel. And having those extra companies allows you to get more optimal trips. You get a much better trip oftentimes if you're going to an area that's saturated by another service. At any rate, the Autotype feature, unfortunately, can also play havoc with screen readers. Okay? And so we're going to, I want everybody to know it will be there, but if you want, you'll be able to turn it off and it will still function the way it currently does, and give you a separate list that you can select from. So we're trying to be as, what we've done in the past is had all these different versions that kind of support different groups and different devices. And what we're trying to do now, it's very difficult to do that. We're trying to create a single design, sort of a universal design that can be used everywhere. And it just adapts to the device automatically, or allows the user to turn a few features on and off so that it's sort of custom fit for the way they like to use the planner. And that's it in a nutshell. The biggest things, I guess, in terms of the information change is that we are doing these mixed mode travel or intermodal type trips. Before it was strictly bus. Now you can mix bike and bus, or wheelchair and bus, or driving and bus, or train, whatever you want to do. You can sort of, by clicking the buttons, you choose what kinds of service you want to use, and the trip planner will find the optimal route using the modes, the access and travel modes that you're interested in.
Mr. Anderson, could you come back perhaps in November and give us an update, perhaps have a little better presentation because of the computer?
I actually, probably when I come back, we can actually show you the live application. Where it's a little misleading to look at it. The truth is we're only a few weeks away from bringing this live. The piece that we're doing here is the very last piece we do. So the engine, the part that does the computing, is the part that is the most complicated. That is pretty much finished. And we're now just working on adapting the screens to talk to that engine. So,
and also, is there any possibility that people that use screen readers and maybe some of the others of us might be able to help before you put it out live for the whole community, so we can do a test on it to make sure?
Ben, I'm happy to hear that. That was going to be my follow-on. I wanted to hear, that's why I'm here. I'm being selfish. I know Giovanna really wanted me to show you something, but I'm kind of selfish. I wanted to hear from you folks because I really want to make something useful. Yeah, I would like that. If somebody could send me, email me a list of names, or I can send it to you and you can email it, maybe that's better. I will send a URL, some test URLs, that you can type into your own browsers and test yourself, and I would very much like to hear what you like and don't like and what we'd like to change. That's actually,
Yeah,
That sounds real good.
I was actually gonna.
John Mavis, then Daniel.
I have a friend involved with me tonight. He travels throughout the Los Angeles County here, delivering for the company he works for, as a delivery person. He does a lot of transferring buses, the dash to the other bus lines. This would be something very good for him, but I was wondering if you have anything in print I can take to him, or your number and so forth, where he can contact you, because he can probably give you a lot of good clues of what he needs as a high partially blind person.
we have, I don't have any printed materials yet. We won't print anything until we finalize, something that we put out to the public, but we will.
You have this rail sheet that I found on the table here. That's the beginning right there. If I had that in print, that would be real nice.
I can coordinate something with Giovanna, and we can get something that I think everybody can read.
Okay.
The Braille sheet only covers the basics. It doesn't really go into how all of it works anyway.
Okay,
I have a
Daniel,
quick question.
and then,
Okay, my main question for you is, are they going to give information on the accessibility issue sidewalk? If I click on the information, the worship, okay, and I need to go to point A to point B. Let's say that there's the four corners of the four corners of the are not accessible for worship. What are you going to do there?
Well, I'll tell you what's going on there. There's two things. One thing I didn't mention, first of all, on the trip planner currently right now, when you put in a location, we just sort of as the crow flies, we just find the closest stop. In the future, the new trip planner is a little bit different. It actually creates a route, a path through the streets, so that we know, if it's a really difficult way to walk or so we can do a much better job of that. But the other thing is, another point that you bring up is how do we always know when something is accessible or not? We try to we try our best to keep track of that. In all honesty, we really don't have all the information we need to know. What you may not be aware of, though, is there's a study going on right now. It's actually an active project that's going on right now called our Bus Stop Usability Project, okay? That's where we have a contracted vendor that is going out and they're actually photographing and measuring every single bus stop that we have in the LA County region, okay? And so the purpose, one of the purposes of this report and the study and this database that they're creating is to give us just that information. We'll know what stops are accessible and what ones truly aren't. And when we have that information, we will feed that to the trip planner, and then the trip planner can make even smarter decisions.
Yeah, thank you very much.
No problem.
Cameron?
I just want, I have a team of 6 at the moment. Can I pass these links to them to use while teaching people to see what the feedback is?
I can't hear you.
We don't have the microphone
No,
right close. We need-
I give it
All
to you
we could-
right now.
So my question is
Oh, sorry.
I have a team of 6 that do travel training, and I think being able to get as much information might be valuable. So I'm asking, can I provide the links that you will submit to me to them?
Absolutely.
I didn't know how coveted
The more the
these
better. I
links
think the
are.
best thing to do would be to let Ben and Giovanna know, and I will send my information to them, and then they can disperse it to everybody. The more information I get, the better.
Christine?
Can you explain the different access modes? So wheelchair, can you explain how the output for the planner would be different than walking? So like, for example, to Daniel's point, does it indicate if a corner has a ramp? What is the difference with that access mode when you use it to plan a trip?
Initially, the access mode is primarily just deals with distance. Okay, we will tell you actually how to go from A to B. You know, walk 1 block south of 1 second, or ride your bike much further. So basically, walking, we may look for stops within, say, a half a mile.
Oh, I see.
Okay, bicycling, we may look for stops. You can ride your bike up to 2 miles.
I see.
And that kind of. Driving, you can drive up to 20 miles to get the nearest, but only to arrive at a park and ride station or train station with parking. Obviously, not just at any stop, because we wouldn't know if you could park or not. So it's based on the things we know now. In the future, when we get information from the Bus Stop Usability Project, we'll be able to then tell only, if somebody chose a wheelchair, for example, we would only select stops, okay, that were accessible.
I see.
Same thing with transfer points. The one thing that we're going to do with transfer points is a little different now because we know the corners that stop share. We're going to try to create trips that minimize the necessity to cross the street so that you can actually stay on the same corner, not have to worry about traffic signals and that kind of thing. I'm not saying that we will always guarantee you to it. We're not going to put somebody on a trip that takes them an hour longer and 3 more transfers just to avoid crossing the street. But but obviously there are a lot of times when we give you a handful of trips now, what a lot of people don't understand is behind the scenes we may process hundreds, even thousands of possible trips that are valid trips that could come up. So we have to kind of score them in terms of, and we have a balanced kind of method. We don't use it just the least walking or fastest, where we kind of consider lots of things that are weighted in. The fare, the transferring, the speed, the mode, all that, how close you get to the requested leave arrive time, that kind of thing. So it's kind of a balanced equation that we use to select these trips. But yeah, the intent here with the access mode is to be able to focus more on those particular kinds of trips and tailor them better for that particular access. And as we get more information, to tailor them better still.
Mark?
You had said all stops. Does that count the non-MTA stops as well?
Yes.
Yeah, because I happen to live in Charlotte and near Charlotte and Sentinel, and I have to walk down to the Victoria. There's a broken sidewalk right there. It's broken sidewalk, so a wheelchair couldn't go by. Does your bus stop guide people aware of broken sidewalks, or?
It is not now. Those are the kinds of issues that will surface in the current project that's going on.
Yeah.
So it's our intent to identify anything, any kind of obstructions. Jess could probably give us more information on what we're looking at, but there's a lot of different things that we're looking at to make it.
Could I let you know about? I just did.
I think it's important that we not overpromise what the results will be from the bus stop usability. As Doug mentioned, it will focus on the bus stops and some area ahead of and behind that bus stop, including to the nearest intersection.
Yeah.
However, it is not evaluating the entire block. So in the example you gave, if a crack in the street or a tree root or something has grown and just made a portion of the sidewalk impassable, if it's not within that evaluation bubble within this study, it's actually not going to identify that. So sharing that information would be interesting. That's probably something we'll have to work on. How do we incorporate comments from the public? And we should make an attempt at doing that. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. There is 2 more. I'll start to address that now. I'll tell you, this is down the road. What I'm about to say. So this is not coming anytime soon.
Is that a pun?
But we're in the process of acquiring from the city of Los Angeles, the county of Los Angeles. We're joining a committee called the LARIAC group. And what they have done is they've done some really high resolution aerial photography of the entire county. And it's really high resolution. It's I think 6 inches to the pixel. It's better than the stuff you get from Google. It allows us to see the entire county, to zero in and see very accurately what areas can be accessible or not. We can actually measure distances from the curb to a bus stop, those kinds of things, all online. And this will be the lake. They have just completed this photography They're actually, they just completed it like a month or so ago, so we're going to have the latest stuff. And then by joining this consortium, we'll be able to update every year or two and get the latest thing. So that should be very helpful in identifying things that aren't just associated with bus stops. But there's a lot of work to do that. So I'll go along with Jess. We're not trying to promise anything. The other thing is, one component I didn't talk about that we're going to ultimately add, because it's not coming out right away, but now we're adding a social component to the trip planner. So that people that are on the trip planner are going to be able to talk to us live. They're going to be able to tell us when they see something, a bus is broken down, or there's a crime happening, or like you said, the sidewalk is cracked, those kinds of things, so that we have the ability to get input directly from our customers. So that's something that we're looking to do and should be beneficial as well.
Thank you.
Christine?
Just another quick question. So, Metro, what other